I've gotten out of the house 2 days in a row without Jeanette giving me a report, and therefore I'm not required to go back upstairs to the mirror in the bedroom and start over. I think today, if Jeanette had not been so preoccupied with preparations for her day, that she would have given me a thumbs down on my radio host costume. That is to say, the bow tie. It is the polka dot bow tie, dark blue, white dots on a striped blue shirt, and I'm wearing a light brownish greenish jacket with a very faded kind of striped pattern in it. And it may be cacophonic. Okay, it may be a cacophony. Well, I know cacophony deals with sounds and not colors, but it may be obstreperous combination today, and I hope you don't mind. You can do an inspection yourself and give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on Facebook. We are on Facebook, and Mike Steele is on Facebook too. He is a ferocious man to be there. Mark Zuckerberg, notwithstanding, in his heavily armed arrival yesterday before a congressional panel, he was surrounded by cops, and I'm willing to bet those cops all had guns. I'm willing to bet that. I'm willing to bet those cops had body armor. I'm willing to bet that they had probably one or two had stun grenades on them, and heavy weaponry to protect this sacrosanct individual who runs Facebook and has earned billions and billions from it, and has sold you, my listener, if you are a user of Facebook. You are the product, indeed. And this is David Toulis, and I'm here on Facebook live. We're always live on Facebook. There is a button you can push on the Facebook page there, and it is one where I think if I just back up here on my screen, I can tell you. I think it's you can play live. You can play Facebook live. Hold on just a second. Let me find that. Yeah, it's called Radio Plugin. It's two windows down on the left. You've got Home, About, Photos, and then Radio Plugin. If you click that, it's on the left, Radio Plugin. Then you just click that, and that lets you play through Facebook our show. So you can have that running in the background if that would suit you. It's 800-8949, 800-8949. You're brought to you by yournews.com. And there is a bit of an uproar this morning over Terrell Parks. He is a man, and because he's black, I think the cop in Bradley County, the sheriff's deputy in Bradley County, viewed him in a proprietary fashion. And that's what happens with if you're an African American and you encounter an officer, as we will be reporting on the Cameron Williams arrest last year. I've gone through the video, and I just have to finish off the essay describing his bag of potatoes arrest. Right, he was treated. He and his girlfriend, Nikki Lewis, were treated like a bag of potatoes. They were treated by the Chattanooga Police Department officer as property. And Nikki Lewis was very upset. She was livid to be treated as if she were, because she's black, like her ancestors in the South, property and subject to the police. That's why police in the South were formed, to catch runaway slaves. Runaway slaves were the great job of the police departments around the South. And that in Chattanooga was formed prior to the war, as the tensions heightened over the South's defense of the institution of chattel slavery. And I could not just, by the way, I spent a couple hours, well, maybe about 90 minutes, in the library reference section, going through two books and getting caught up in a conversation with a kind of a cranky old gentleman up there who's a sort of historian. And I think he said he's writing a book on Ottawa and some of its odd historical details. I tend to get caught up in conversations with people and stay far longer in particular locales than I really should. But there I was trying to read these two volumes on the Chattanooga Police Department, and they were hagiographic, which is to say, hagiography is simply history told with a glow. Okay, very, very gratifying, laudatory prose by the history writer, not telling about the evils of the party who is the subject of the book. Right, that's called hagiography. And your supporters write that, right? Winners of wars write hagiographies, like our entry into World War I, our victory in World War II, all hagiographically treated by historians. The many evils that we had done, glossed over or framed in such a way that you can't see the moral issues in them. So the police department, I could not establish in looking through those two volumes that the Chattanooga Police Department had been founded in the program of collecting runaway slaves, ancestors of Nikki Lewis, right? And Cameron Williams. Cameron Williams is C. Grimy, the hip hop artist, whom I have had some concern for him because he is a state victim. And that I think I want to mention state victims today. And I want to mention also how it's happening in point number 4 here on the David Tula Show. And that is the city council. The city council, I believe, had a third reading of the panhandling ordinance. And I somehow I couldn't make it down there yesterday at 6 o'clock. I just had pressing obligations, a car in repair, and a kind of a disturbance on my schedule, and some commitments that were demanding of my personal attention, and couldn't make the city council. So I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I believe that the council passed over the objection of 2 members. It passed the ordinance for banning for criminalizing begging. Okay, that's what the city council has done. So that you say that's point 4. So we have three profiles encouraged today, and one is Sheriff Jim Hammond, who is prosecuting a man for traveling in his car. That's number 1, and the man being prosecuted is charged with a bogus charge, and that's called driving without driver's license. That is a bogus charge, and the mayor, the sheriff, I would like to suggest, is acting in bad faith. And he's acting in bad faith because for the past month now, he's been reviewing his procedures, and he's been reviewing the law, which I have invited him to do by a strenuous, though beautifully written, administrative notice, which is to say a legal analysis, or rather just a legal restatement of the law in Tennessee and all the relevant court cases that make a distinction between travel and transportation, one ignored by Mayor Burke thus far, unless Mayor Burke changes his mind, as he is wont to do when he studies sound legal review. Ignored also seemingly by Jim Hammond and DA Neil Pinkston. I have notified all 3 of these men and their governmental corporations and organizations about the limits on the law. Tennessee law is very libertarian. In fact, it is much better law than I initially realized. I thought it was an oppressive law earlier. It's not the law that's oppressive. It is the practice of the machinery of the state. That is to say, the people who run the state and who have so much invested in the misapplication of law that I suspect there's no turning back unless there's a revolution or one well-placed lawsuit against some poor officer who was not given the notice that his boss had received about the limits on the law. And of course, that officer will be acting in bad faith since he legally had been notified. The moment his boss was notified of a legal fact, he, legally speaking, was notified. So Sheriff Jim Hammond is prosecuting Rudy Soto Rodriguez, age 32, residing with his wife Daisy and 2 children at 7602 Lee Crest Lane in Hixson, 32 years old, driving without driver's license and speeding. Both of those charges can't be made against someone who does not have a driver's license. If you are on the road privately, you can only be charged with driving without a driver's license if you're involved in transportation. Okay, you got that? Okay, I'm sorry I'm so hot about this. I really am, because we have 4 instances of the profiles encouraged. City Council favoring the ban on panhandling. Sheriff Jim Hammond prosecuting a working man, an immigrant here 13 years, who works at a job site downtown right now. And then we have Neil Pinkston, who is going to be prosecuting the leading member of the county commission, the leading member who is the taxpayer watchdog. He is the taxpayer watchdog, has been very critical of the Hamilton County Convention and Visitors Bureau, its sort of secret secret non-budget outlays by credit card, and has gone out of his way to call for accountability on that. He's gone out of his way to call for accountability on raising taxes, taxes raised by the commission for unknown educational purposes. And Tim Boyd is not dead set against doing that as I would be. But so I would fault him there. But I would say still he's right on the county commission to have say we can't just rush into raising these taxes and not know where the money's going. Right, we're going to create this pool, this sort of fund with this new money coming in on the county tax from the county taxpayers, and it is effectively a slush fund. Okay, we can pick out later what we want to do. We don't have to figure out what the needs are now and then find a way to pay for those needs with a tax increase. No, we're just going to raise the taxes, and then we're just going to be wallowing in options when that money starts rolling in. And Tim Boyd, the county commissioner who said that's not right and that can't be right for you, my listener, the taxpayer, you, my listener, the taxpayer, and Tim Boyd has been there defending your interest as best any commissioner can. And now he's being indicted. The story is all over the local news wires today, and he calls it political action by Neil Pinkston. Neil Pinkston may or may not have some grievance and some grudge against Commissioner Boyd. I think probably not. I'm just guessing, probably not. And there is perhaps a bit of hyperbole in the press statement by Tim Boyd, but it is an indictment by the people of Hamilton County. They impaneled in the grand jury. What the grand jury does, it doesn't try a case. Okay, it is you have grand and petit jury. The petit jury tries the facts and determines guilt, or allows one to walk from the charge. And that's the petit jury. The grand jury simply says, we think that the accusations are sufficient enough to warrant a trial by our colleagues, our fellow citizens in the petit jury, which of course is constantly renewed with new people, and called to jury duty. That is the service to which you are called as the citizen and the resident of the county. We, the grand jury, think there's enough warrant in the accusation in the Boyd case by a TBI agent, enough to warrant a trial on intent and the facts. The facts, of course, are often in dispute. What are the facts, and how, as we pull apart all the facts and see the human interest and the human interactions through those facts and upon those facts, where is the crime? And Commissioner Boyd, Tim Boyd, the taxpayer watchdog, being indicted by at the behest of and at the encouragement of his rival for office, a man dissatisfied with being the mayor of East Ridge, and that is Brent Lambert. Brent Lambert, who is very cozy with the developers who are heavily indebted for multi-million-dollar profit prospect project in the interchange there, the redesigned interchange near Camp Jordan, on the east side of that long, stringy city called East Ridge. Sort of sleepy working man town, not a very prosperous town. There's not a lot of money in East Ridge. Generally, it's a working class kind of bedroom community. People either work there and run businesses there, or they work in Chattanooga somewhere. And it's not a high class kind of town as far as income levels. I would suppose. Okay, I've not looked that up, but I suppose that's not inaccurate. I would even say it's probably accurate. Okay, I'll put it that way. And this is David Toulis, 800-8949, 800-8949. If you, my listener, know something about this matter, well, by all means, call in. Or if you have something to inject into the stream of loquacious conversation, you feel free to do that. And also, one thing I'd like to just suggest here on the David Toulis Show, I would like to solve problems. I think right-wing radio says it solves problems and has solutions for America, but I doubt it. I doubt that any national discourse has a solution. And the reason I argue for local economy and the free market is that there are no national solutions. Our problems cannot be fixed. And because they can't be fixed, we are facing a cataclysm. We are We are the ferry loaded with tourists on a grand river. Let's just pretend we're in South America. And we are thinking somehow that we're going to be watching the Iguazu Falls. But we think that we're going to be watching these Iguazu Falls from the base, right? We're going to approach the base amid the roar and the constant streams and mist and the rainbows there in that misty basin where those gigantic long falls pour. And we find out that we're not at the bottom of the falls, but we're at the top, and we're hearing the roar get bigger and bigger. And we're looking at each other a little nervously. We see some mist over the trees ahead on the stream, and our boat is chugging toward the vista where we will see this grand natural phenomenon to which tourists from around the world flock to see, from Japan, Korea, Europe. They all go to Iguazu Falls in the South American continent. And well, the captain, we shout to the captain, hey, we think the falls may be near. Maybe you should get near to the shore. The captain says, okay, we'll pull over a little closer. And the ferry is going a little close to the shore now. It's only 500 feet away. As we are approaching the fall. And we think that if we have a better man than Bob Corker at the helm, that we'll be a little bit more conservative. We'll pull in 400 feet from the shore as danger is ahead, right? But there's not a means of getting the prow of the boat onto the shore, into the sands. It's not going to happen. No one has the courage to say, well, we need to pull off the river. We need to ground the boat and get off because we're approaching the roar. The roar is not above us. The roar is beneath us. And we're about to go over the cataract of the falls. And we are facing a disaster as a country, as a nation, as a federal government, as an economy caught up in debt, choking on debt, and choking on the surveillance state, the military state, the warfare state. And we can't make a reformation. Reformation is impossible, and that's why the issues I propose that we explore here on the David Toulis program are all lococentric. I'm Dr. Nugacentric. Okay, I only have a master's degree in English from UT, but I think it's fair to say that I'm Dr. Nugacentric in advanced PhD studies in decentralization, diversification, and lococentric, personalistic economy and free market. That's the David Toulis Show. And I'm glad you're giving 5 minutes of your time. That's all I really need, 5 minutes of your time. And we can think together through the problems that we have facing the country. National collapse and decentralization. I mean, this collapse will show itself in the equities markets, right, in the stock market. And the credit market, I think, will seize up perhaps for different reasons than it did in 2008, 9, and 10, where the poison of the liar loans infecting all the credit markets with those car loans and those home loans created from nothing on a mere form without any proofs at all of the loan applicant. That caused a major crisis of confidence in the whole debt sector back then. There may be a different cause this time, but it'll be the same effect, and that will be a seizure of the markets, and people will be unwilling to pay. They'll be unwilling to pay, being unwilling to lend, and there's going to be the system has to continue lending. There has to be in a debt-based economy continuing growth of the loan base. Otherwise, you have a collapse. If the overall dollar base does not increase, you have a collapse. A collapse is what will happen, and we deserve it. We highly deserve it. So what do we do here in Chattanooga? What do we do personally in families? What do we do with our savings? What do we do with our investments? Should we continue to hope in gains in the stock market as these companies are engaging in financial engineering and buying back with borrowed money their outstanding shares to keep the valuations up? I think we have a disaster ahead. Now, the city council got a letter from an organization, the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty, indicating that its ordinance to ban begging, to ban mendicancy, to ban the petitioning of one man to another for alms. That ban is illegal. The draft bill we have seen criminalizes the act of soliciting funds in a defined, aggressive manner, and in a number of regulated locations. As the city recognizes in the preamble of the bill, the First Amendment's protections of free speech apply to those who are asking for donations. and it cites Buckley versus Vallejo and Speet versus Shewitt. Begging or soliciting of alms is a form of solicitation that the First Amendment protects. The Supreme Court, the letter says, clarified in Reed versus Town of Gilbert, Arizona in 2015, that it will examine a law as a content-based restriction if, and there are two ifs here, if, number one, the text of the law makes distinctions based on speech's subject matter, function, or purpose, and then two, the purpose behind the law is driven by an objection to the content of such a message. Subsequent cases have clarified that this applies to ordinances seeking to regulate panhandling. So we have speech-based censorship proposed. City Council proposing censorship. Even conservatives on the City Council, Smith, and who are the name? I don't have the names in front of me. The new chairman. Ken Smith, Ken Smith, conservative, and others, they are favoring this move. Why is it that these men who are conservatives say one who spoke effusively of the Constitution? Why are they not more careful about the rights of the poor? Why are they willing to regulate the content of speech? Now, I think it is a mistake to pass this ordinance. It is based on very sketchy data in the ordinance itself, as it describes, I think, 457 encounters among panhandling members and the public in 3.25 years, and it is the numbers are not big. They're offered to pretend to be big, but they're really very small. A very small number of complaints over 3.5 years or so about men or women begging in an offensive and disagreeable and aggressive manner. It doesn't happen very often, and yet, of course, the times in which it does happen creates that encounter between the constituent and the member of the council. And that member of the council thinks, well, I've got to do something. I'm negligent of my oath of office, negligent of my role on the council if I don't at least propose something. Erskine Oglesby said, well, at the very least, this ordinance will get people talking. Mr. Oglesby, you're a man of words. You're a man who believes in the word, right? Why do you think we have to have a 9-page coercive measure that empowers David Roddy, the leading gunman of Chattanooga, right? In blue, of course, he's on the right side, empowering the leading gunman of Chattanooga to provide social services to these people. The people on the council who voted for this say, well, we want to have interaction with these panhandlers and have just a little bit more authority for them. We really don't want to fine them $50. We really don't want to drag them into court. We want to provide social services. Well, if that's what you want to do, then you can't have that done. You can't bring that about by passing a compulsory ordinance that violates free speech rights, as the National Law Center for Homelessness points out. You can find that document, by the way, online at Nuga.com. That's Nuga.com. Alina Hunter-Graw has a story about it. Moved yesterday or the day before. Worth looking at. David Tool is here. Love your neighbor and buy local is my suggestion. And there are 5 points, 3 of them in Helvetica type in the footnotes. David Toulis.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio, Digital FM